order to have days like this, you're going to have days like this. This is Tips on Tuesday. We're going to talk about what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Stay tuned so you don't feel like doing this. If you like these videos, please subscribe and give us a like. And if you have anything to add to the conversation or any questions, please leave them below. Hello, and thank you for watching Tips on Tuesday. In the last video, we showed most of the parts on Aquarius for adjusting the mainsail, and also discussed a bit about what to do if the furler or outhaul fails. In this video, we are going to take a look at a few more parts of the furling system and complete the rebuild of the furler. Next video, we'll rebuild the gearbox and complete the installation of the furler and the gearbox with motor attached. If you want to learn a bit about In-Mast Furling and a lot about an Amel Super Maramu, please come along for the ride. Well, the first thing I'd like to discuss about this project is that damn noise. That is the luff extrusion banging side to side against the mast. The mast has a hollow section that is formed to protect the mainsail while wrapped around the luff extrusion or furled. Both the mast and the luff extrusion are extrusions, so you won't be confused. During the rest of this video, I will call the mast and the luff extrusion, sometimes I'll just call it the extrusion. There are plenty of design considerations regarding the mast, like the dimensions and the type of alloy. Let's take 30 seconds just to understand the process of making an extrusion. Let me know in the comments below if this is too much detail. I'd really like to know what you subs want to see in these videos. So you heat up the metal. They call that the log coming out of the furnace there. I guess they call it the log because it kind of looks like a tree trunk. They cut off a piece that they call the billet. Then they press that hot metal through a die, and voila, out comes the extrusion. Getting back to the design, there is one design consideration that usually is overlooked, and that is the sail gap. The Amel mast has just a bit larger gap than most other in-mast furling systems. The downside is you get a little bit more sun damage on your sail, but the upside is you get less jams. We have never had a mainsail jam on Aquarius, and I've measured this gap on a few other boats, and yes, Aquarius always has just a little bit wider gap. Now let's get back to the noise and how to stop it if you need to drop the mainsail or the mizzen. We didn't do it this time because we're going to remove the furler, and I didn't want any other lines wrapped around the extrusion while I removed the furler. But if I was removing the sail for storage, I would use this method. Take a look at the cross section of the mast with the extrusion inside. If we are sailing, the extrusion is pulled back up against the back of the mast, and it won't make any noise. Or, if the mainsail is wrapped around the luff extrusion, this won't make any noise either. But if the extrusion is in the mast and there's nothing attached to it, it's going to drive you freaking nuts, and your neighbors are going to hate you. To get along better with your neighbors, tie a halyard or a sheet to the swivel and pull it to the top. Then furl that rope around the luff extrusion like so, and then tie it off to the outhaul car or someplace and pull it tight. No more noise. I think it's time to start taking things apart. What do you think?
One of the hard things about this is keeping all these things from falling. These babies here. Black goes to red, and I guess I got it on backwards, but that's the way it's going back on. I bought the rebuild kit for the Furler, and of course Amel has sent us this information on how to rebuild it. Actually just an assembly drawing, and we're going to use that. And now we're going to take this baby apart, and it's leaking a little bit of fluid, so you know, not too much, and it actually sounds pretty good, but we're gonna get it all fixed up. So first thing we're gonna do is take it apart, clean it up, and then we'll go from there. Now what do? Is there's a little Allen on the top, and you have to get that thing backed out. And now we should be able to get this pen out. At least I hope. Good morning. It's been a couple days since we started this project because one, the pin wouldn't come out. We also had a problem with the transmission and the electric motor. The electric motor was fine, but the seal on top of the transmission that's hooked to the motor, it actually almost dissolved. Bearing underneath it almost rusted closed. I mean, you could still turn it, but it was difficult to turn it. So what we did was we took it to a machine shop. We're getting that replaced, and it should look nice and pretty when we get it back. So this seal probably isn't the most important seal, because this seal is on the bottom. This thing is actually like this when it's on the mast. So the seal on the bottom probably isn't the most important seal. The seal on the top is, and that's in there. So we're gonna have to pop that one out too. And of course we ordered this seal kit from Amel, and that's one of the nice things about the Amel is you can just order it from the factory And unfortunately, oh, there it is. We have found the proper seal. So this is the lip seal for the top, and you notice that there's a metal ring inside here. Anytime you see any lip seal with a spring inside, you have to fill it with grease. Okay, so now we've got that baby full of grease. Now we're gonna just stick that into place. So now we got it full of grease inside there. So we got our first seal on. So that's actually the bottom seal. This bearing here has to be full of grease. And all my bearings were good because not much water got inside of here. But if you got water damage inside, you're probably gonna have to take this to a machine shop and have them replace all the bearings. And you know, a machine shop would be able to do that for you. It would be pretty tough to do this piece. I wouldn't recommend doing it yourself, but probably could do it yourself too, but I would have taken it to a machine shop because it's just too expensive if you damaged it. So I would just take it to somebody that knows what they're doing on replacing the bearings. Alright, so that bearing is completely packed now. Now let's get some grease around this part here that goes up and down. Get it all greased up. Anything that moves, make sure that you have plenty of grease in between anything that moves. And then we're also going to fill it full of grease in the end. So there's one other bearing here, so we're going to fill that bearing as well. Now I've seen on some of the other boats, the other Amels, this bearing is completely gone. It's just completely gone. And that's because the water comes in and actually comes in the top. Which is up here and comes straight down in and ends up getting this bearing first. So this is the bearing you have to worry about the most. But our bearing looks good, so we didn't have to change it out. But of course, you know, this bearing would probably be easier to change than the other bearing and the bottom. So in it, I'm putting waterproof lithium grease. I'm just trying to get as much grease inside that bearing as I can. And it's a clean job too. You don't get your hands dirty when you're doing this stuff. That's what's so nice about it. And you can hear the extrusion for the mast out there just banging away. That's what it tells you, you got work to do. Okay, enough with that. Alright, let's get on to the most important seal. This one down in here. Gotta figure out how we're gonna get that seal out of there. And we're slowly getting that thing out of there. There it goes. Alright. let's clean all that up. So there she is. And she's out. So this is the race. So this is what these bearings roll on. So you have to make sure that there's no scratches in here and no scratches on your race. Now we've got another bearing. It's got its little spring insert. Anytime you have a spring insert. So let's fill this up with grease. So I'm also going to put some grease down inside that. I'm going to grease this up as well. Well, that went in there mighty easy. Maybe a bit too easy, but... Okay, so now we've got a bunch of grease in there. We've got our seal in place. And we got it all greased up inside. Alright, so we're just going to put that in there like that. But we definitely have to fill this whole thing up with grease. And we definitely want to make sure that these holes are clean. Okay. So this has to go in here. And then you got to make sure that these line up. And then we need to get our bolts. Okay, so pretty much got it full of grease. And this one goes in here just like that. Now we're just going to clean it up. Now this one has to be really clean because this is a really tight fit. And one of the things that you have to realize when it comes off, you're just going to have to hit it on this side, hit it on this side, hit it on this side, hit it on this side. Just tap it until it comes off, because these things here, it's a really tight fit. So you're just going to have to work it up and to get this thing off. And that was the only trick there was to taking this apart, was to get that piece off. All right, and so I don't have to worry. Now, if you were to screw a bolt in and you saw this in there, you would have to get that out, because when you screw the bolt in, this is just going to compact and you can't get the bolt all the way in. And sometimes you'll even strip out your bolt because the pressure gets too great inside. But these holes actually go all the way through. So it's not going to matter about the grease in the holes, because those holes go right all the way through inside the cavity. And this one has the last O-ring around the outside, but this one here we're going to keep pretty much clean. There's a little film of grease around it. And this is the last O-ring. Let's take that off. We're just trying to clean that slot. It's probably a good idea to keep, you know, since that seal is in the UV rays, keep that out of the sun with a thing on top so that it doesn't get damaged by the sun, and then you've got water intrusion in through here. So we're going to actually start doing that, and we're going to have a cover. Let's lube that shaft a little bit too. Here's the seal that was sent by Amel. And it has the a little spring in it, so of course we're going to fill that up with grease so that it's completely covering that spring that's in there. And that goes right up on the top of this. So what we'll do is we'll like put a little grease inside there too. And around the outsides of this. And on the insides. Okay, so now this seal is on. The last part that we have to put on is what they call the dust cover. Now the dust cover keeps stuff from getting into this crack in here, and what we're going to do, because if the water gets in there, it's gonna slowly get inside. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill that crack up with grease. That's just gonna add just a little bit of sealant around there. It's not that much. It may not do that much, but it's better than nothing. So now we're going to put the dust cover on. And what I'm going to do with the dust cover is I'm going to put a little bit of grease around the bottom. There it goes. I think that's how it goes. Just like that. I think that's completely done, so let's test it out. Well, I think that's pretty good. We got to put this pin in. There's a little bit of a bevel in there. See in the side there, there's a groove on this pin, and it's just a tiny bit off. Alright, so that should be about centered. Then we're going to take a little bit of this compound for anti-corrosion. We're gonna put our anti-corrosion stuff on there. That's the unit right there, all done. You see the dust cover, it actually turns on there. So as it's moving, it turns on. So it's rubbing against the casing. But with the grease in there, and every once in a while, what I'm gonna do from now on is maybe every couple of years, I'll take this off, fill that back up with grease and clean it up and put it all back down again. I actually think that's really good.
Well, thanks for watching the video. Next week, we're going to spend a little time at the machine shop.
Jiang Workshop.
Jiang Workshop. Very good.
And hopefully get everything put back together just like this.
If you like this video, give us a like down below and click here to subscribe. That really helps us. And if you want to watch more of us, click one of those.